Now, some of you guys are thinking colognes are expensive because the raw ingredients, what they put into the fragrance, is expensive, right? And logically, that makes sense. Oud, orris root, those go for $5,000 a kilo. Ambergris, that waxy substance from whale stomach, costs $10,000 a kilo. And don't even get me started on florals. Jean Pateau's Joy claimed to use over 10,000 jasmine flowers and over 300 hand-picked roses in every single bottle. Well, gents, as logical as that sounds, that the more money you spend on a fragrance, the better ingredients you're getting, that is not the case. In fact, price oftentimes has little to do with the quality of the juice, depending on how you judge a fragrance. So let me be clear, expensive ingredients do play a role in the price of the fragrance. They make it more exclusive, but they are just part of the story. Another big part is the packaging. People don't realize how expensive it is to get a custom bottle, to get a custom lid, especially when you're doing relatively small numbers, like companies like Chanel, Dior, but more niche houses like Raja right here. I would say that his cost per bottle, per lid, per top right there is going to be a lot more expensive than the larger houses that are selling just a lot more. In addition, you've got the cost of a luxury box. Something like this isn't going to cost a whole lot. It looks really nice, very functional. I think Raja did a great job with this, but still the cost per box is going to be a couple dollars. Together, all this starts to add up, and it increases the risk of the company that is funding, that is actually putting out the fragrance, because they're having to put more money up front. A company that spent even more on their packaging, Fragrance du Bois, this one right here, not only do we have the sleeve, which, that'll cost like 50 cents. Then you've got the fancy box, as you can see, taking this off, that right there, probably $1 or $2. Then you've got an even fancier box that opens up with the inner packaging, the unique bottle and the shape itself, the fact that it's got these encrusted jewels in here. All of this packaging right here, $15, $25 just for the bottle. We haven't talked about the ingredients. You throw in the cost of the fragrance, maybe $35 if they're doing a small run. Maybe you can get the cost down to $20 if you're making tens of thousands of these. Now, fancy packaging isn't new. When you get a Rolex, you get a nice green box. You pick up a Manta, actually for a fraction of the cost, you get an amazing box made out of wood, all nicely crafted, leather on the inside. Point being is companies understand the importance of simply presentation when you receive the product. Seriously, even expensive sunglass companies know that actually getting a protective case with your sunglasses right in there goes a long way. And I really love when actually a company thinks through design and they give you something functional with the packaging. And if you think packaging doesn't matter, just look at the reviews of Fragrance One. For all intents and purposes, the juice is friggin' awesome. Made by the master Alberto Marias, I think that this does exactly what it says it's going to do. The problem is the box is lackluster, incredibly simple. People could forgive that, but whenever they looked at that lid at that top, it's flimsy, almost non-existent. You can cut yourself on it. The bottle just wasn't inspiring to people. People were disappointed with the presentation, and that bled into their experience with the actual product. And for cheaper fragrances, it can actually have the opposite effect. Dunhill Racing, relatively, the juice isn't super special, but I have to say the packaging, the bottle is friggin' awesome, and I love it, and it just makes me feel better when I spray on the fragrance. Another hidden expense is a good atomizer. A cheap atomizer is more likely to break, more likely to leak. Expensive atomizers also allow you to spray out less of the fragrance, more of the fragrance. It gives you more control, but there is a cost to that. Sometimes they're 5 to 20 times the cost of the cheaper ones. Now, gents, if you've ever worn an expensive fragrance and nobody noticed, you can get a single compliment. Do me a favor, smash that like button in solidarity. Come on, let's stick together. Seriously, if you enjoyed today's video, let me know by smashing that like button. It lets the YouTube gods know that you want to see more videos like this. Now, I alluded to this earlier, but manufacturing runs. The size of your order has a huge effect on the price. Basically, the more that you have manufactured, the cheaper in general it's going to be. So when you have a company like Hermes, they're getting 100,000 of these made at a time versus a smaller niche house like Zaharoff. He's going to get 5,000, maybe 10,000 of these made. But even at that number, he's not going to get the same discounts. He's not going to get the same deals. Basically, they're going to have a longer run. The company that's manufactured is going to be able to save costs, and they are going to be able to, drive down their own price and make more profit. So that's why a lot of times with niche houses, they have to charge more in order to be able to make money, to be able to make it a legitimate business. In addition, you've got storage, shipping, security fees. A case of Creta Ventus, that actually is worth a lot of money. So you got to make sure that nobody comes by and swipes it in a warehouse. In addition, you've got to maintain certain temperatures. You can't let this be in freezing weather. You can't let it be in a room that's 120 degrees. And that makes a difference in how much it's going to cost to be able to store this for a few months or even, for, half a year. Today's video, gents, is brought to you by Mission Fragrances. So over the last few years, I've learned about the power of fragrances, how they can make you feel. And I was shocked when I went out there and looked to find fragrances that actually could help you achieve your peak performance. Performance enhancing colognes. I was looking for them, could not find them. So guess what? I developed Honor, Courage, Commitment. I put them in a set. I've developed a course that goes with this. In fact, I think this is the only fragrance set out there that are designed to work together and come with a course, with an app that allows you to be able to condition yourself to peak state. So if you want to have confidence, if you want to feel better about yourself, if you want to have the courage to go after, to be able to ask that girl out, to be able to go after your dreams, guys, this is the set that you're looking for. And guess what, guys? You can get it because I'm launching here soon. Down in the description of today's video, I'm putting a link over to Mission Fragrances. Enter your email. Doesn't cost anything. We send you more information about this unique set. There's nothing else out there in the world like this that enables you, again, to condition yourself to peak performance using the power of specifically formulated fragrances. Guys, if this at all sounds interesting, and this is my passion project, let me know down in the comments or just go over to Mission Fragrances and sign up, and you will be able to grab the next set whenever we go live, which, again, we only make a set amount of sets available. We do this so that we can give you amazing customer service. We run our guys through as a course. You don't have to fully take the course, but I do recommend it. Guys, if you want to learn more, again, down in the description of today's video, go over and check it out, missionfragrances.com. Next up, you got to pay the perfumer. Now, some houses, they actually kept a perfumer on staff and they're just paying him a full-time salary. Jean-Claude Elena, I think he came up with this masterpiece right here, Terre d'Hermès. Or you've got Alberto Marias, and he actually will do side work for a number of businesses, and the guy has produced tons of fragrances, but still, he's got to be charging, I think, well over $10,000 just to come up with a formula that probably didn't take him too long. But yeah, right there, that's going into the cost of every fragrance. And if you're going to get multiple iterations, it probably drives up the cost even more. And guys, I want to be really clear. Everything I've talked about up to this point, these are not the main drivers of price. They can have an effect on the price, but there's two types of pricing in general. If you study marketing, you've probably heard of cost-based pricing versus market-based pricing. Cost-based pricing, let's take it with right here, Dior Elixir Sauvage. This, let's say, cost $15 for the bottle, for the juice, for the packaging, for getting it into stores. So they should be charging what? $30? $45, maybe triple the cost of it, maybe $60. No, they're charging $150. I think even maybe a little bit more for a 2.5 ounce. How are they getting away with this? How are they able to charge this price when we see larger bottles going for half of that cost of, that's the EDT and other versions of Sauvage? Because they're market-based pricing this. And market-based pricing is what most companies do, and they understand that they can actually charge what the market is willing to bear. Now, the way a fragrance is marketed will have a huge impact on the way it's priced. Right here, we got Paco Rabanne's Phantom, recently released. This was going after the young, irreverent crowd. It was all about, they had spaceships. You look at the videos that they were putting out about this thing, very different. And when you smell this, it actually meets the expectations of there's nothing else really like this. Some people hate it. Other people like it. I'm kind of in that latter camp. I think it's perfectly a fine fragrance, something unique, and I really like what they tried to do with this, but it's also a Paco Rabanne. So sometimes the brand that you come from, you got to stick within a certain price range. Paco Rabannes in general, we expect to be about $100 if they're new. Once they've been out for a few years, they're at discounters. We'll see them at half that price. This bottle right here came out about 150 mil, so that does affect the price a bit, although you will find that it never is a one-for-one. So a 50 mil is never going to be half the price of a 100 mil. They definitely, try to, or at least I find I'm going something bigger because it always seems like a better deal per ounce. Now with Mont Blanc Explorer, as many of you guys know about this house, they do a lot of, what would you say, clones. Basically, they find DNA that works and they go with it. So Creed Aventus was doing really well, a niche fragrance costing almost $500. They're saying, hey, we'll come in with something that is a fraction of that, just under $100, and people loved it. No, it doesn't have, the same smell as Creed Aventus, but it is close, and for a fraction of the cost, a lot of guys jumped right on it. And for some brands, $150 is cheap. Tom Ford has some really high-end fragrances, and I believe he has a higher-end version, an older one, of Beau de Jour. Well, they came out with a less expensive, not using as fancy of ingredients, a simpler bottle at a fraction of the cost. And they were going after a wider market. And speaking of Tom Ford, let's talk a little bit about exclusivity and uniqueness in fragrances. So if you're familiar with wines, you know that depending on the year that the wine is made, depending on where it comes from, all that is going to have an effect on the taste. To a lesser degree, we see that in fragrances. The batch number, the year that it's made, and exclusivity, because sometimes they stop making fragrances. Oftentimes they stop making fragrances. And you can even argue, people do this on Creed fragrances all the time, that every year it slightly changes. Every batch number it slightly changes. So Noir Anthracite, right here, this thing is going for hundreds of dollars. I picked it up just a couple years ago for a fraction of that cost. And this is a fragrance that I do not think smells really good. It smells like burnt, like cigarettes. And people still love it. And because it's unique and because there are collectors out there, that drives up the price as well. But, this isn't something I would pay hundreds of bucks for. I'm happy I have it in my collection and no, I'm not going to give it to you. But it just goes to show how sometimes price can be driven up by people just simply wanting something when it becomes exclusive. And exclusivity isn't just when they run out of a fragrance, but also niche fragrances whenever they do the smaller runs. And this is, I think, a big advantage of when you choose a niche fragrance is you can be pretty much guaranteed in a room of 100 people, you're going to be the only guy wearing that fragrance. You'll smell amazing, and people are going to be asking, what is that? Where did you get that from? And yeah, George, you did a great job with this fragrance. Amazing. All right, Jen, so what's the answer? What's the main reason why fragrances are so expensive? Well, in 2001, there was a study at the University of Bordeaux, and they had all of these wine experts, 54 in fact. These were the top of the top. They had them taste and try all these different wines. And they asked them, okay, this was a cheap wine, this was an expensive wine. Did you notice the difference? What did you think here? And everybody had an opinion. And again, these were experts, and they definitely had, all the cheap wine, you could tell, and this is why. They could taste the dirt. They knew exactly where it came from. The more expensive wines, they had their opinions, and this is why they were so good. The reality is all of them were fooled. These were the same wines. In fact, what they thought were a red wine was actually a white wine that had been dyed. And they did this study again at Caltech, except this time they hooked up people's brains to a monitor and they said, hey, this is an expensive, this is a cheap wine. And they gave this to experts, and what did they see? Whenever there was an expectation, and that is key, of it being expensive, their brains in a certain area were more likely to activate, and they could actually better taste. They drew in more flavor, and their brains literally told them it was better when the expectation was higher. So why does this matter with fragrances? There's a reason why companies like Chanel never discount. And they actually make things very exclusive. A lot of their things you cannot buy unless they allow you to, because they set the expectation of exclusivity. And I think recently, no fragrance, unlike, Creed, has just done a masterful job of being able to set that price and that exclusivity, despite the fact that they don't have a great atomizer, they really don't have great packaging, but because of their price and the belief that this is so good. I've smelled tons of fragrances better than this, but when people save up their money, and many people without a whole lot of money do save up $425, and they buy specifically from Creed's website, and they smell Creed Aventus. They're like, wow, this stuff is life-changing, and it is to them because they earned it. They saved up to it. While there are other houses like L'Odyssée pour Homme, Issey Miyake. This is a beautiful fragrance. It's coming out of the 1990s. Beautiful summer powerhouse, incredibly inexpensive. It's not really talked about because its price and exclusivity is relatively low. While companies like Tom Ford, I know for me, when I first smelt Black Orchid, and I paid full retail for this, it was our friend recommended one of the first 10 fragrances. I just could smell all these complex notes. I was looking for them, and my expectations were so high, and it lived up to the hype. Now, occasionally, a company can let you down and not live up to the expectations, but if they do a good job hitting all the points we talked about, and they've got a well-formulated fragrance, you're going to be surprised at what you're able to smell, what you're able to pick up, and how it's going to affect your brain. Now, gents, what video to watch next? How about how to make your fragrances last longer? I know a lot of you guys think, well, just spray more on, and that actually is one of the suggestions, but there are a lot of other things that could be happening while your fragrance is disappearing. Guys, I cover it all in this video right here. It's really probably one of my most detailed videos about fragrances and helping them last longer. It's a good one. Go check it out.